Welcome to the Frankfurt Archaeological Museum, a place where history truly comes alive in the heart of Germany. As you step through these doors, notice the cool air, touched with the faint scent of old stone and memory. You are entering more than just a building. You are stepping into a timeline, a living story of human civilization. Every corner, every display, every artifact has a tale to tell. From the first human settlements in this region, to the might of the Roman Empire, and onward to the fascinating medieval past of Frankfurt itself. Take a moment now to pause, breathe deeply, and absorb the calm atmosphere. This building was once a Carmelite monastery, a place of quiet reflection where monks walked these very halls in silent devotion. And today, it has been transformed into a home for priceless treasures. Look up to the soaring ceilings. Trace the rough stone walls with your eyes. And imagine the centuries of stories hidden within them. As we begin this journey, let your imagination wander. Picture a Roman soldier marching past these streets, merchants shouting in crowded markets, craftsmen hammering in smoky workshops. Picture medieval children playing in courtyards, their laughter echoing through time. All of them, in their own way, shaping the world we inherit today. During this tour, we will explore a remarkable collection of artifacts. Ancient tools that tell the story of survival. Pottery decorated with symbols of daily life and belief. Sculptures frozen in time, showing both skill and imagination. And colorful mosaics that once shone in Roman villas. Each relic is a bridge to the past, a window into how people lived, worshipped, and built the roots of modern Europe. Notice how the museum is arranged. Each room flows into the next, guiding you through time. Showing not only objects, but the connections between eras. The continuity of human experience. And the ingenuity of our ancestors, who turned stone, clay, and metal into legacies. So as we begin, I invite you to relax and let curiosity lead the way. Take your time with each artifact, listen closely to the stories they whisper, and allow yourself to travel back through centuries. This is more than a museum tour. It is a journey through time. A chance to step into the lives of those who came before us. And to see history not as something distant, but as something living, woven into these walls, these objects, and our imagination. Our story begins thousands of years ago, in the prehistoric era. Imagine walking through dense forests around Frankfurt, long before there were cities, before there were roads. Here, the first settlers carved their lives from stone and clay. Look closely at the museum's earliest artifacts, stone blades chipped from flint, rough fragments of pottery, and burial gifts carefully placed with the dead. These objects might seem simple, but to the people who made them, they were treasures. Think of a flint blade, sharp enough to cut hide. A tool like this could mean the difference between hunger and survival. Or a clay pot, fragile yet essential, carrying food for a family, or perhaps serving as an offering in a sacred ritual. Time moves forward, and we enter the Bronze Age, one of the great turning points in human history. Here, in the museum's glowing displays, bronze artifacts gleam as if newly made. Weapons with sharper edges, ornaments with delicate curves, and agricultural tools that allowed villages to grow stronger. This was more than technology, it was transformation. Picture a Bronze Age craftsman at his fire, melting or into liquid metal, pouring it into a mold. The hiss of steam, the glow of embers, the weight of a new tool cooling in his hands. For the first time, humanity stepped beyond stone. But remember, behind every artifact was a life. A mother preparing meals in a clay pot. A farmer using a bronze sickle to harvest grain. A warrior tying a gleaming bronze blade to his belt, uncertain if he would see another sunrise. When you look at these displays, try to see not just the object, but the person holding it. The calloused hands. The sweat, the hope, the fear, the joy. These people lived without electricity, without engines, without modern comforts. And yet, they created, they adapted, they thrived. Step by step, they laid the foundations for the very world we live in today. Each artifact you see is more than an object. It is a message across time. A reminder that the human story is one of resilience, creativity, and endless curiosity. Now, we step into the Roman era. Frankfurt, then part of the northern frontier of the Roman Empire, was a place where cultures blended, Roman customs met local traditions, and the landscape itself was transformed. The Romans brought with them not only soldiers and fortifications, but also trade routes, language, and architecture. They introduced new ways of living that left their mark on this region, even long after the empire itself had faded. Here in this gallery, you'll find objects that capture both daily life and the grandeur of Roman culture. Notice the statues of Roman gods and goddesses, carved with incredible detail. These were not just decorations. They embodied divine presence and protection, standing watch over homes and public spaces alike. Nearby, you'll see coins minted with the faces of emperors. Each coin carried more than just value. It was a message of power, a way for the emperor to project his image to every corner of the empire. Look as well at the everyday household items. Oil lamps that once flickered with warm light, ceramic vessels used for storing food and wine, and tools that hint at the rhythms of daily life. These artifacts remind us that behind the grand narratives of empire were ordinary people, cooking, eating, working, and raising families. One highlight is the mosaic fragments. Imagine them in their original setting, vibrant floors and walls inside Roman villas, alive with geometric patterns and mythological scenes. To walk upon them would have been to step directly into a work of art. And then, there is the Roman glassware, delicate, colorful, and astonishingly well-preserved. Craftsmen experimented with shapes and shades, producing vessels so thin they appear almost weightless. To hold one today would be to cradle both beauty and fragility in your hands. Stand here for a moment and let your imagination wander. Picture Roman soldiers patrolling along the frontier, their armor gleaming in the sun. Merchants arriving with carts of goods, olive oil from the Mediterranean, spices from the east, fabrics and wines from distant provinces. Families gathered around low tables, dining in homes decorated with mosaics, their tables set with glassware like the ones you see here. The Roman spirit still lingers in Frankfurt. In the roads beneath our feet, in ruins uncovered during construction, and in traditions of architecture and craftsmanship passed down through the centuries. As you explore this gallery, allow yourself to feel both the elegance and resilience of Roman culture. It was an empire of power and ambition, but also of artistry, innovation, and everyday life. Before we step into Frankfurt's medieval past, the museum invites us even further back to the timeless world of ancient Egypt. Here, you will encounter statues and relics that have traveled across centuries and continents. Notice the serene faces carved into stone, the unmistakable style of Egyptian sculpture. These figures, often representing gods, pharaohs, or high officials, were created not merely as art, but as vessels of eternity. Look closely at the hieroglyphs inscribed on some of these pieces. Each symbol carried meaning and magic, a way to connect with the divine, to preserve memory, and to ensure eternal life. Among the smaller objects, you might notice amulets and funerary relics, charms placed with the dead, believed to protect them on their journey into the afterlife. Even these modest pieces, so easily overlooked, tell us of a culture deeply invested in the mysteries of death, rebirth, and eternity. Stand here for a moment and imagine the hands that once held these objects, the rituals they were part of, and the voices that spoke prayers thousands of years ago. Now, moving forward in time, we enter the medieval world. Frankfurt, during the Middle Ages, grew into a vibrant center of trade, politics, and culture. The museum's collection reflects this transformation vividly. Here you will find armor and weapons, heavy swords, chainmail, and shields that once served not only as tools of war, but also as symbols of status and honor. These objects remind us of a world where conflict was frequent, but so too was the idea of knighthood, duty, and protection. You'll also encounter religious icons, illuminated manuscripts, and architectural fragments from towering Gothic churches. Notice the soaring arches, the intricate carvings, the way each fragment seems to reach upward toward heaven. The Middle Ages were defined by faith, and these relics embody a society that saw religion not as separate from life, but as its very foundation. One highlight is the museum's collection of religious art. Sculptures of saints, delicately carved altarpieces, and sacred relics all speak of devotion, but also of artistic brilliance. These works remind us how deeply religion influenced medieval society, shaping its laws, its politics, its calendar, and even its sense of beauty. Pause here for a moment. Imagine the sound of bells echoing across medieval Frankfurt, the chanting of monks, the flicker of candlelight illuminating painted manuscripts. The city was alive with both spirituality and commerce, where markets bustled just outside the church doors. As we move closer to modern times, the exhibits begin to change. You'll notice coins that reflect growing networks of trade, household tools that became more refined, and decorative objects from the Renaissance and Baroque periods. The Renaissance brought a rediscovery of classical knowledge, a flowering of art and science, and Frankfurt, too, felt these winds of change. The Baroque era that followed brought grandeur and drama, evident in the ornate carvings, rich colors, and detailed craftsmanship on display here. Together, these artifacts chart the city's evolution, from a medieval trading hub into a thriving European metropolis, alive with ideas, wealth, and cultural exchange. As you stand among these treasures, you are walking through centuries of transformation, from the mysteries of Egypt, through the faith and struggles of the Middle Ages, and into the brilliance of the Renaissance and Baroque. Each piece here is more than an artifact. It is a voice from the past, carrying stories of belief, resilience, and creativity across time. As our journey comes to an end, take a moment to reflect. The Frankfurt Archaeological Museum is not just a building filled with objects. It is a bridge across time, connecting us to the people who walked these lands long before us. From the earliest prehistoric settlers, to Roman soldiers guarding the frontier, to medieval craftsmen shaping a growing city. Every artifact here is a voice from the past. Each one speaks across centuries, reminding us that history is not locked away in books, but alive here in front of us. Think again of the simple flint blade, the shimmering Roman glass, the painted altarpieces of the Middle Ages. Each piece was once held, used, or revered by real people. People with families, hopes, fears, and dreams not so different from our own. This museum is more than a collection. It is a reminder that we are part of a story much larger than ourselves. A story that stretches back thousands of years and continues to shape who we are today. Whether you're fascinated by the ingenuity of ancient tools, inspired by the elegance of Roman mosaics, or moved by the devotion captured in medieval art, this museum invites you to keep exploring. History does not end with what you see here. It lives on, in our cities, in our traditions, in our everyday lives. So, as you leave this journey, carry with you the voices of the past. Let them remind you of where we have come from and where we are still going. Thank you for joining this exploration of history. If you enjoyed this experience, consider visiting Frankfurt to see the museum in person. Walk its halls, stand before its treasures, and let the past speak to you directly.